Hey everyone, it's Sal and Shawnee, Life After Sunday. Carpool. I always say carpool because we always do these videos in the car. Today we had an argument. We had a nice, healthy discussion, a healthy argument. But we still love each other, of course. And these are normal things.
I would call it a bundle of disagreements.
Bundle of disagreement. Oh yeah, that's a good way to put it. But these things happen, especially in a marriage. And today we're going to be talking about 3 tips to staying married or getting through an argument while married and while in your anger. We're going to be talking about 3 tips to getting through that and making things right. Because remember, marriage is forever.
Right.
And we said our vows, and it's holy matrimony, and it's to death do us part, through thickness and in health, and all of those other good things.
Thickness and health and thin and sickness,
thick and thin,
everything.
sickness, all of that stuff.
Sorry, that was like a
that's what started the argument. No, that's not what started the argument.
Gigantic dragonfly thing that flew by, and we're both like.
But
anyway,
I do want to let you guys know, statistics show that the average length of a marriage that ends in divorce is 8 years. People wait an average of 3 years after a divorce to remarry, if they remarry at all. The average age for couples going through their first divorce is 30 years old. When we got married, we said, we're getting married for life. You know, it's not for divorce. This is like the mafia. You have to die out. But,
blood in, blood.
You know, so today we had an argument. And we wanted to talk about those 3 things. One of the things that I want to talk about is apologizing or admitting you're wrong. I have a big problem with that. I don't like to admit when I'm wrong.
We all do.
I don't think I'm ever wrong, and most men do. Most men do feel the same way.
It's not me. It's not the wife.
But it's a lot of things that comes into, you know, an argument. Whether it be stress on finances, stress on, you know, other people outside of your relationship, that sometimes is a factor. Don't let that come into your space, even though it will. It will.
Of course.
Hands down, you're going to have an argument. You're going to have an argument. You love each other, but you're going to have an argument. One of the tips, number one, don't make crazy decisions when you're angry.
That's right. Don't be impulsive.
Don't make any decisions.
It's really hard to be. It's hard to be angry and to be considerate. It's hard to be frustrated and be like, you know, and kind of control or contain yourself sometimes. But that's kind of something that we really have to learn and to master, not just in marriage even, but in relationships altogether. And so, I mean, I don't know if you guys know, whoever doesn't know, we've just celebrated in February 13 years of marriage. And
anniversary.
Yeah, so we're, you know, we've been in this game.
We passed the 8
bit.
years. We passed the 3 years, the 8 years, the 7-year itch,
we're
all
over
of that good stuff.
the decade, and that's all.
And it was good.
All by the grace of God. So
right.
We can't take credit for ourselves, but we have to give God the credit, and we know that He's brought us really far, and,
absolutely,
and we know that He's going to bring us all the way through. But we're just sharing with you today, so we have another.
And that's one tip. Yeah. That was number 1. What was number 1?
Don't be impulsive.
Don't be impulsive. Don't make decisions in your anger, because they're not going to be good. It's like that saying that you never want to go shopping when you're hungry. Never go shopping when you're hungry.
I do a lot.
Never go shopping, because you get all of this sweet stuff and all of the stuff that's not good for you. Don't go shopping when you're hungry. So it's like one of those things. Don't make decisions, especially on a relationship basis. Don't make decisions based on your relationship while you're angry.
That's right.
Because that's what happens. You say something and you can't take it back, or you mention the word that we don't use at all. It begins with a D. And if you guys can respond and comment on what that D stands for, we don't use that word, but that's what happens. When you're in anger, you make that decision based on your relationship, and then it's too late to take it back. Number 2, and I know you guys are dying to find out what we were arguing about. And what we were arguing about had a lot to do with frustration with in-laws and where we are and things like that. I love my in-laws. Don't get me wrong. She don't have to deal with my in-laws because they're in the East Coast, but I have to deal with my in-laws. I mean, I said she don't have to deal with my in-laws. She don't have to deal with my parents because they're back east and in Kentucky and stuff like that. However, I'm close with her her parents, so we're in their face all the time. So it's frustrating sometimes, but it is what it is.
And due to life situations, you know, we're so thankful for our parents and our family and everything. So, but at the same time, we go through things, and they're there for us, and they love us, and
they are,
and they're such a blessing. So, you know, thank God, you know, we tough it out, and we're so grateful. But it's rough. So, but it's, at the same time,
because I got tiny eyes.
No, stop it. He has beautiful eyes. So, anyways,
tip number 2. Tip number 2 is make sure. What's tip number 2? Tip number 1, right? Tip number 1 was don't make those erratic decisions, crazy decisions while you're angry. Tip number 2 is
we were going to say don't let the sun go down on your anger.
I thought that was going to be the last one.
You skipped the first
one. All right, so tip number 2, never let the sun go down and you're still angry. Make sure you apologize.
Or don't go to bed angry.
Don't go to bed angry because you wake up in a whole different attitude, and it starts festering, and it just make sure you can you can apologize. I was wrong, honey. I apologize to my wife, by the way. I apologize. She was wrong, but I apologize. No, I'm just kidding. No, but you have to apologize. I feel like, for me, I feel like I apologize much more than she does, but that's just my opinion. But it is what it is. I have to be the man in the relationship and make sure that things are right. A happy wife is a happy life. You heard that before, right? Tip number 3. Are you saying I had 2?
He was wrong. See, admit it.
Be quiet. I was wrong, guys. Tip number 3. I had to add into it because my fingers are big.
Give me 4. I'm just kidding.
That was an inside joke. Give me 4. Shout out to Mark Mayfield. But anyway, tip number 3. Agree to disagree.
Correct. Which we have to do often. So
we do have to do often, because sometimes I feel like, okay, I was right in some situations, she was right in some situations.
Yeah. In a marriage, in any relationship, there's 2 different people, or many different people. Well, not in a marriage. Anyway, in any relationship, there's different people, different backgrounds.
Right.
They're raised from different, upbringings. They have different personalities. They come from different belief systems sometimes, and so you have to realize that you're not going to always see things eye to eye, and sometimes that's what creates the balance. I think sometimes he's up here, I'm down here, and then we find the balance somewhere in between. So we just have to agree that it's okay to be different and to think differently about something, and we have to acknowledge that that's okay. So I think that's a key, is to say
it is a key. I even talked to, not to cut you off, sorry. I even talked to a young man today. Not a young man, he's actually older than me, but him and his wife they're going through a divorce. And if I could save a marriage or help save a marriage, and we're talking about the house. Should we sell the house, or should we go through a chapter 13? And not to put anybody out there, so I'm leaving names out of it. However, we make money when we sell their house. However, I'd rather save that marriage, or be instrumental in saving that marriage, rather than make money off of their dilemma, off of that tragedy, because I believe divorce is a tragedy. Sometimes, I know some of you watching might feel differently, but I am so against divorce, unless it's very, very, very necessary. But the word says, what God has brought together, let no man separate. And we strongly believe that no matter what our ups and downs are, she's been supportive of me. I support her. We support our family. We support each other, and it's very, 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 very important to stay with that. All right, so think about this: servings per marriage, 50%. Divorces. First marriages. Now listen to this. First marriages, they stay 41%. Second marriages, 60%. Third marriages, 73%. The average age, 30. Years before remarrying, 3. Divorces per hour is 100 divorces per hour. We are against divorce. We love each other. I love my baby. It's my girl. But we get into tiffs. We get into arguments, healthy discussions, and disagreements, and it's good. It is.
You learn to work through them,
and it's really learning that person's personality. You're never going to know every single thing. As you learn, you learn about your spouse.
And it's a blessing too that I don't know how many of you guys know, but we work in real estate, and so what he was just talking about is they sometimes when he's meeting with different people. He saw another squirrel.
No, I said we're at 11 minutes. Sorry.
I know. And so
this is really important.
When he's meeting with people, sometimes in those meetings, because that's where he usually goes, with people to help them with their home, he has to sit in these kind of rough situations where people are at odds with each other, and husbands and wives are ready to call it quits, and there's no turning back in their opinion, and so.
It has a lot to do with finances too.
Yeah, that's a rough space to be in.
Don't let that get you. Don't let that get you. Go through it. So we're gonna end there. We do want to say that we promote healthy, loving, faith-based, foundationalized marriage, and it's important. It's definitely important.
Also remember that for those of you who have children, we have 3 boys.
Pray together, stay together.
That's right, and also a daughter. And so, who doesn't live with us? But your kids are watching you, and they're watching how you interact with each other. They're watching how you interact with others, and they're watching what happens in those tiffs, in those arguments, in those situations. So just remember that you're always, there's always an eye on you, and even when you don't physically have someone there, God is watching, and He knows what you're doing and how you're acting, and He knows the thoughts that come into your head, and He knows the ones that you act out. So just keep that in mind, and remember, you want to salvage relationships.
Right. And when it's getting tough, and I'm gonna end there. When it's getting tough, guys, think of when you first met your spouse. Think of when you first said, "Yes, I'll marry you." Yep. Think of when you first said your vows and what you read to them when you said your wedding vows, and think of those things when times get tough, because you can get through it. You can get through it. Times have been so tough for us, and we get through it, but we stick together. A family that prays together stays together.
And a part of that is also the great examples we've had before us. My parents, our mentors, and so many people around us. So we thank you guys for being great examples. Continue to do that. All the beautiful couples that we have surrounding us, our friends, you know who you are. So we love you guys, and thanks for watching. Please subscribe
right there.
And continue
Press
to watch
the next
our other
video.
videos, and share and like if you can. We appreciate it. We love you guys, and have a great one. This is
God
Life
bless.
After Sunday. Sal and Shawnee Williams. Have a great one.